So this video wraps up our discussion about multicores. We're just going to have some final remarks about where we're heading. So multicores here, symbolized by the Apple cores on this picture, was a big revolution, as I initially said. It was a completely different beast, and I still don't know if the commercial market knows or the programmers knows how to fully take advantage of multicores. So right before multicores happened, there was a famous article in Dr. Dobbs, website where you often the rumors and insights are spread about computers and upcoming changes. And this was called "The Free Lunch is Over." If you haven't read that article, I recommend you read it, especially now with background of the computer architecture and the discussions we've had so far. There was a person called Herb Sutter from Intel that wrote this article, and he said that the biggest change in software development since object-oriented revolution is knocking on the door. Its name is concurrency. So he said that multicores are coming. Hey guys, we need to understand how to use these. Interestingly enough, last year he wrote a new article on Dr. Dobbs called "Welcome to the Jungle," where he's saying, well, remember that multicore stuff I talked about? The world is not half as complicated as I told you that it would be. So he says that there are lots of forces now where you try to put heterogeneous supercomputers or clusters, supercomputer clusters into work. Heterogeneous in that many different kinds of CPUs on the same chip or in the same system. So he says there's going to be very complex to harness all these different kind of cores. There's going to be lots of non-uniformity, lots of heterogeneity going on. So the world is just going to be even worse moving forward. And I agree with him. It's an interesting article. I don't agree with all its points, but he's looking at this from a programmer's point of view, and I think he should make you, if you're a programmer, he should make you scared enough that you understand that you have to pay attention to this. So what trends are we seeing in chip development right now, and how the chips are being used? Well, what we've seen on the different offerings here, we looked at high-performance computing chips, we looked at commercial chips running databases, and we looked at laptops and so on. So the offerings of the different chips varies a lot. The number of cores varies, the number of threads per core varies, the cache capacity, the bandwidth supplied per chip varies, and so on. So there's lots of variation between the different market segments because they have so different needs when it comes to number of cores and bandwidth and so on. Also, we can see more and more that software functionality and specialized functionality is moving on to hardware, specialized hardware. We saw the encryption, we saw the I/O, we saw graphics as a kind of specialized functions moving on to the hardware as well. So what we are seeing right now is a larger diversity than ever, I would say. With beginning of the century, we saw that everything was becoming very homogeneous. The same chips from Intel and AMD was used in high-performance computing and databases, and it seemed to rule the world. But now there's much larger diversity, and there's a sort of side comment. These days, Intel are releasing more different kind of chips each year than they have ever done. So it's really, from their single point of view, it's also a very, very much a diverse market. We see trends. We talked about this for the database machine, that people have started looking into very active power management. So DVFS, and here I purposefully made the V small to say that V doesn't change so much these days, but it still makes sense to try to manage the power. It's non-uniformity, so NUMA kind of systems we've seen everywhere. Heterogeneity, we have tiny and fat cores in the same systems. We have different instruction set architectures in the same system, and we see lots of specialized hardware. And then we have another trend we haven't talked about so far. We talked about that. We're going to talk about that when we discuss the future, a trend called dark silicon. We are already at the point in time where we can put more transistors on a die that we can afford to have turned on at the same time. That's sort of silly. Why do we put all these transistors on a die if we can't afford to have them turned on at the same time? Well, this is sort of like if you look at the American football. I love American football. If you look at in American football, in the team, I don't know, maybe there are 80 people in American football, but only 10 or is it 12? I don't remember that are allowed to be on the field at the same time, and then you have lots of specialized teams. This is what's going to happen with dark silicon as well. So you're going to have a chip where only a fraction of the chip can be turned on, but you're going to turn on the fraction that can help you the most at this time. You're going to have the offense, the defense, the punt return team, and so on. And it's also going to be a case for reconfigurable architecture. So maybe you're going to have a tenth of your cache turned on at a given point in time, because you know that a specific application can only use a tenth of the cache. And this is further going to make things more complex. No, it's not only that you have very specialized hardware, you have heterogeneous architectures, you have non-uniformity, and you have active power management that can change the frequency on you in the chip. You also have a chip that has to be reconfigured. And how can you as a programmer wrap your head around all this and figure out how that can be used in the best way? And that's a scary thought, but it's also an opportunity. It's a job security for you people who understand how to write a parallel program and how to manage a multicore. So wrapping up about multicores. What are we buying? It used to be you went into the compute store and you bought the CPU with the highest frequency, but that is not interesting anymore. It's depending on what your application looks like, you may be interested in the frequency, you may be interested in the number of cores, you may be interested in the flips and flops, maybe the bandwidth of the memory system is the most important to you, maybe the cache capacity is the most important to you, the memory capacity, maybe performance per watt is the most important for you. So it's not so simple anymore. How you define a good computer. Well, it depends on what's going to be used for. There's lots of marketing hype going on, but when you select your processor, you really have to understand which are the correct answers, questions to ask when you buy that computer. So multiple questions for the future. How to get parallelism? It's been a classic problem for as long as I've been interested in parallel computers. People have tried to figure out how to easily get parallelism, and lots of smart people have worked on this for at least 30 years, 40 years, and there is still not a really good way to automatically get good parallelism. How do you get good performance of a single thread? So data locality and performance. Data locality is going to be more important than ever, because with good data locality, you're going to produce less off-chip traffic, and you're also going to burn less energy. How to debug? How do you debug a massively parallel program? Well, debugging a single-threaded program is hard, but debuggers for parallel programs, that's a big one. Will we see new funky languages arising now? Because we need to tease parallelism out of our application, and obviously most of the languages we use are not good for automatically finding parallelism. Maybe, and this is something that people have tried to do for the last 30 years or so, inventing new languages. But maybe this is actually the point in time where inventing new languages and have it accepted would be a very good timing. Automatic parallelization, yeah, parallelizing is hard. Maybe this finally people doing automatic parallelization will see renaissance. What are we buying? Compute power, memory capacity, bandwidth? These are questions. Will 1,000 cores be mainstream in 5 years? This is a bullet I've had on my slides for the last 8 years, and I haven't had to change this number. Because it certainly would be possible to put 1,000 cores on a die today, but will it be used in mainstream computing? Will you program for it? I don't know. I don't think so. Will the CPU market diverse into desktop capacity, capability, special purpose CPUs again? Yes, That question I can answer. It already has. Non-question though is, will it happen? Multicore has happened, and it's driving our future of computers, and it's an exciting world to be in. And I'm envious to you guys who are entering the world of computing right now, because there are going to be many exciting years moving forward.